sorry. Like, no, it was my fault. I wasn't looking where I was going.
That's fine. Did you say something about the show or the concert? Something I overheard you.
Yeah, we're going later tonight. Why?
I'm the lead saxophone player.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I could probably find you guys some tickets.
Thanks. That would be nice of you.
All right, see you both tonight.
Yeah.
Hello, Martha. Ever since the depression of the 1920s, my family has been better. My father's not working as a head in a Wahasia company.
Oh, Claire, that is good that the shop has gotten better as well. More immigrants are coming, which help us prepare to become a shop.
Martha, did you hear about the Community Art Show? It's such a big thing now. I bought tickets to see the show tonight.
Oh, did you, Claire? That's nice. I love romanticism. So meaningful.
The jazz, it brings relief to my mind. It reminds me how everything was great before the depression. My parents would listen to jazz and let the pain go away in their lives too.
Yes, I understand you, Claire. When I migrated to Seattle, everything was different. I was not used to seeing all the new opportunities in business.
Martha, come along with me to the concert. The art and jazz today is such a delight. Martha, why did you and your family immigrate to Seattle? Your family had good money already, even before you came.
Well, thank you, Claire. I tried to get some tickets, but once I went, they were sold out. When my family and I are from Japan, we came to Seattle because we wanted new life and opportunities, and to open a larger and better shop. Claire, why did your family migrate to Seattle?
My family and I immigrated from Mexico to Washington State. There are many reasons why we immigrated to Washington. The first reason was because my parents wanted my siblings and I to have education that they could not get back in Mexico.
Jennifer, could you stand to the side of Daisy so you're back in the face of the audience? Thank you.
Another reason why we came to Washington State is because Mexico is going through the Mexican Revolution, which was the year 1910, when it started. We came because we wanted no harm to our family. Another reason why we immigrated to Washington is because of the good farming here. And those are the few reasons why we immigrated to Washington State.
Oh yes, I understand you, Claire. I have to get back to the shop. I'll meet you at the concert later this week. Goodbye.
Well, goodbye, Martha.
Oh, God.
So, why, Ray, is this not great music?
Why, this music and art brings happiness to me.
Oh, hey, Ray, look, it is a woman who owns a shop downtown.
Oh, yes, it is. It's the one who owns the Japanese shop.
Oh, look, she is with the Dapper's daughter. I think that she was the one who had to buy the tickets. I did not know that the woman who owned the shop was friends with that young woman.
Let's go say hello to them and see if they can join us at our table.
Well, let's go then, Ray. Let's welcome them to the concert.
Hello, young man. Want to come sit with us at our table?
Oh, thank you, young lads. We would like to sit with you. Will we not, Claire?
Oh yes, raise your table then, lads. I'm so excited to hear that expressionistic music.
Well, here's our table, the closest to the stage. Peter gave us tickets to see him at the concert.
Oh yes, Peter. He's a lead sax player. I wonder if he's here already.
While we wait for Peter, why don't we get to know each other?
Oh yes, we should. Ray, why don't you tell your story first? I really enjoy listening to you tell about your past before you came to Washington.
Well, I immigrated here from California because I heard that there was good farming here in Washington. I also came because too many people were migrating because of the mining and the gold there. My boss laid me off because more experienced people came in, and that's why I migrated to Washington, I guess. and I need to start over in a fresh place. Hey, Leo, why don't you tell us your story now?
Well, there you are, lads. I was looking for you all. But you've enjoyed this concert so far. The art is, well, such a delight. I see you have met Miss Claire and Miss Martha.
Hello, Peter. Why don't we sit? We have enough room for one more.
What were y'all talking about? I'd also like to be in this conversation.
Oh, we were conversation about each other's past. Leo's about to tell his story. Leo, please continue your story.
Peter, won't you sit next to Daisy so you can see your face?
Well, I came here from Maine. My family was very poor and we wanted a new life. When we finally got our chance to leave, we did. It didn't take long from sleeping in a bed to the ground. But when we finally got here, we were filled with joy. Not long after I met Ray and we became best friends. We've had almost the same experiences, and this is why I migrated to Washington.
That's very interesting, Leo. I really want to learn more about you. Martha also has a good story on why she immigrated from Japan to Washington.
I'm from Japan and I came here with my family in search of opportunities that we could not get in Japan. Many Japanese came to the United States on the year 19. Many went to Hawaii, but my family came to Washington State. Many Japanese immigrated to Washington, but through the years 1885 to 1894, over 28,000 citizens came to Hawaii and the United States. We also came here because it was easier for my family to open a shop. Back in Japan, it was harder for us to get a life we have here in Seattle. Claire, why don't you tell your story?
My family and I immigrated from Mexico to Washington State. The first reason why we immigrated from Washington State was because of education. It was more difficult for them to have the education we have now. They didn't have the lifestyle, the easy life we have now. We also came because the Mexican Revolution was going on through the year 1910. We also came because of the good farming here, and those are a few reasons why we immigrated to Washington State.
Well, that's very interesting, Claire. I didn't know that you were from Mexico. That was interesting. Was it difficult when you immigrated from Japan to Mexico?
When I immigrated to Mexico, it was very difficult. It was sad for my family. I had to leave many cousins and aunts back in Mexico. I left many friends back also. It was difficult for everyone. Martha experienced the same sad moment.
Yeah, it was very sad when I left my family back in Japan.
Why don't you not tell us your story, Mr. Peter? It must be a great one for such a musician.
Thank you. Well, I'm an immigrant from Europe. I came to Washington for many reasons. For one, I came for all the music, and I loved how everything was so happy. Well, not for everyone, because it was hard during the time period of 1900 to 1920. I heard how many immigrants had a very hard life. Some had to work twice as hard as others. Well, this is my story. I came to Washington on the year 1917. I came with my brother and my uncle. My family was better off back in Europe, but when I came, I got a job as a music instructor. After 2 years, I made up my mind and decided I want to be a musician. I came because I wanted to be known by many, and I wanted a better lifestyle. Since then, I've become a better person, too.
I can understand what you've been through. Immigrants and migrants have gone through some similar differences.
I better get going. It's almost my time. This conversation has helped me think differently about migration and immigration to Washington State. Goodbye, everyone.
Yes, I agree with you. And why do we not enjoy the show now?
I'm happy we all met each other and got to know each other better.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Our time period was 1889 to 1930, and first event I put on here was 1869. That was when the Gilded Age started. I put that on there because it extended through our time period, so that's when it started. In 1889, that was when the Seattle Fire happened. In 1890 was Art Nouveau. In 1890 was the Progressive Movement. In 1900, it's when people were getting more jobs. In 1905 was Fauvism. 1907 was when Japanese was compromised. In 1908 was Expressionism, so that's a form of art. In 1908 there was limited European immigration. In 1909 was a period in art called Futurism. In 1910 there was also one called Cubism, and also in 1910 this was what one of the census schedules looked like.
In 1915, there's this suprematism, and that's basically art, as you see here. In 1915, the African American Exodus, and that was like a time when like it just really stuck out for them. It was really tough. But then also good things came along after that. In 1917, well, in 1918, that's when the Gilded Age had ended. So like things had started to sort of go down, because in the Gilded Age, that's when things started to build up, and then it started to somehow crumble down. And in 1919, the Bahas. Well, in 1920, Constructism, and that is like another form of art. And in 1920, the big impulse of the KKK. They were a type of, well, basically a hate group that would just have some like whites and sometimes like white marauders, and they would basically ridicule other races and kill them and things like that. And in 1925, serialism, and that is when people would go extreme against things that they know.
In 1899, the Southern state passed a law to black. 1903, Wright brothers births white. 1912, the Titanic sank. 1917, the U.S. entered World War I.
1920, women could vote. 1925, flapper dresses in style. And 1930, Pluto is discovered.
Okay, well, these are just a couple facts about our topics, our individual topics. Mine was art and music, in economy. One of the types of music and art that was happening back then was called contemporary music and art, and it was very popular, and it consisted of light and happy ideas. Music was very colorful and delightful. The art was very happy and told a story or proposed an idea. In economy, it was the period called the Progressive Era, or the Progressive Movement. In this time, they were set on improving their government and worked towards a bettering life. They believed the problems society faced, which was poverty, or for example, like poverty, violence, greed, racism, and class warfare, could be best addressed by providing good education, a safe environment, and an efficient workplace.
So I had the topics Latina experience and women and children. A few facts about Latina experience is that they came for a better lifestyle, but when they came, it was more harder for them because they needed to work longer and more harder jobs that whites didn't have. They had to work twice as hard, or even more. Some facts about women and children. Women got their rights to vote in 1920. Women were treated right if you were in the right class. If you're in the higher class, you were treated better. But you're in the lower class, you had to work around the house, you had to work around everything. You didn't have maids like the higher classes did.
I have the topic of Native Americans and African Americans' experience when they come to Washington. Oftentimes in early Washington state, Native Americans would have their villages raided by groups of whites or white marauders. And afterwards, they would try to take the remaining Native kids and then put them in boarding schools. And boarding schools is like they would take the Native kids and then since in a way that they would be sometimes humane, because some people would try to talk them out of killing the kids, like they would just put them in like schools and then that would force them to be suitable in society. Since like it was all white, they would try to make them suitable so they'd be able to at least like grow up and be something that kind of went bad. And oftentimes they would just be forced to go all together. In the other Native tribes, sometimes they would try to get revenge and attack on the people in Washington by mass invasions of their towns. And on the other hand, black people got the similar treatment. Like all other races that come to the U.S., they would be ridiculed. When blacks would come to Washington or the U.S. altogether, it would be hard for them to get jobs, at least ones that pay fair. And they would also get inhumane treatment because of their color of their skin.
I have religions and social movements. For the most part, every other religion other than white did not get much citizenship. And the worst part is that they couldn't become a full American citizen even though they lived there for the progressive movement was one of the movements I found, and it started in 1890 and ended in 1920. It was about people thinking they could conquer anything in life. And
As stated by Luan Nasi, by the year 1907, the Japanese increased about 40% of Oregon's total railroad labor force. In 1908, the number of labor that could relocate from Japan in 1926, Japanese Award Hammerstein Japanese